my boss's cat or waking up as the CEO's pet. A violent crash, the piercing shriek of tires, my body was thrown, and an all-consuming pain swept over me. Am I dying? In agony, I drifted into darkness. When I woke again, I was lying on something incredibly soft. I stretched luxuriantly, rolling over, ready to fall back asleep. Wait, something's not right. My eyes shot open. I took in my surroundings. Where am I? This place, it looks familiar. Didn't I get into a car accident? Is this a hospital? I tried to get up to find someone, but as I landed, I saw 4 paws planted firmly on the ground. My vision went black. I almost fainted again. What's wrong? Snowy, hungry. A deep, magnetic voice came from nearby. My spirits lifted instantly. That voice, why is it so familiar? Just then, a pair of enormous feet appeared before me. I followed them up, tracing the owner's long legs to his face. When I saw that familiar, glacial handsome face, my world went dark for a third time. Isn't this my boss, Damian Blackwood, the man in charge of the entire Blackwood Corporation? Why has he suddenly become a giant? I tried to ask him, but all that came out was a series of frantic meow, meow, meows. Am I hearing things? I tried again, still, only meow, meow, meow. Then, a horrifying thought struck me. I looked down at my hands and feet, or rather, my paws. Suddenly, my body felt weightless as a pair of large hands scooped me up. Damian held me under my front legs, forcing me to face him. Our eyes met. In the reflection of his dark, intimidating pupils, I saw my own image, a tiny, black, and white tuxedo kitten, no bigger than his palm. Even though I'd already had a dreadful suspicion, seeing the truth confirmed was utterly devastating. Did I die and get reincarnated as a cat? And of all the people, the cat of this terrifying, ice-cold CEO, lost in my despair, I didn't notice the flicker of surprise that crossed Damian's cold eyes. The cat food, prepared by a 5-star chef, was a lavish medley of Australian lobster, rose shrimp, abalone, and giant scallops. The sheer value of this single meal was mind-boggling, but even with such delicacies before me, I had no appetite. Anyone who wakes up to find they've become a cat would be in a foul mood. I didn't even know if I had died and been reborn, or if my soul had simply been transferred. Was the old me gone forever? The thought filled me with a profound sadness. How could I be so unlucky? I overslept, and just to avoid being late, I splurged on a taxi for once, and this is what I get: a car crash. I guess my frugal lifestyle was trying to protect me. Well, at least I'm an orphan. No one will grieve for me. That's for the best. Their sadness would only make me feel guilty. I lay in my cat bed, radiating an aura of gloom. The maid, seeing my state, thought I was sick and immediately called Damian. So, as I was wallowing in my feline misery, I was suddenly lifted into the air again. Meow, what's happening? I'm taking you to the vet, Damian's deep voice rumbled, and only then did I realize he was home. Is it evening already? I glanced at the floor, ceiling windows. The sun was still shining brightly. You're skipping work, Mr. CEO, as I silently judged him. A large hand landed on my head, stroking my fur firmly. I couldn't help but let out a contented purr, my eyes closing in pleasure. It wasn't until he was about to place me in a cat carrier that I snapped back to reality. I'm not sick. I don't need a vet. I started to struggle, my tiny limbs flailing. Damian held me tightly against his chest, gently securing my front paws. Be a good boy, he murmured, his voice laced with an uncharacteristic gentleness, or we really are going to the vet. I froze. As Damian's assistant, I was no stranger to him. His coldness was legendary, but this man, the formidable CEO, was now holding me, speaking to me with such tenderness. So, Mr. Blackwood, you have 2 faces after all. Seeing that I had stopped struggling, he didn't mention the vet again. He carried me to the dining room, where a servant quickly brought my gourmet cat food. His long, elegant fingers picked up a piece of lobster and held it to my lips. Good boy, eat. Those 2 simple words made my head spin. All my sorrow forgotten, I obediently opened my mouth. The sweet, firm flesh of the lobster exploded on my tongue. My cat eyes widened. How can something taste this good? I'd never eaten anything this luxurious even when I was human. I looked up at Damian, opening my mouth again, silently begging for more. A faint smile touched his lips as he continued to feed me, piece by piece. Soon, the entire bowl was empty. As he offered the last morsel of scallop, I licked the lingering juices from his fingers. The moment I did it, I froze. I was horrified at myself. Leo, You've only been a cat for a day and you're already acting like one. Be good at home. I'll be back to have dinner with you tonight. Before leaving, Damien held me and gave me a final, comforting stroke. Maybe it was his promise, but when I returned to my cat bed, the sadness didn't return. Instead, a faint sense of anticipation bloomed in my chest. What else could I do? I was a cat now. I had to make the best of it. I curled up and quickly fell asleep. I don't know how long I slept, but I was woken by the sensation of being lifted. I opened my eyes, trying to rub them with my hand, only for my paw to meet my face. Right, I'm a cat. To cover my embarrassment, I rubbed my eyes with my paw anyway, then looked at the person holding me. It was Damien. Is he off work? I glanced outside. The sky was dark. Okay, no more skipping work then. So cute, Damien said suddenly, out of nowhere. Before I could process that, he added, it's been a while since you've had a bath. Though it was my first day as a cat, the feline instincts were already deeply ingrained. No cat likes water. I immediately began to squirm, my forelimbs thrashing in protest. Not behaving again. Damien looked down at me. I don't know if it was his intense gaze or the gentle tone of his voice, but I stopped struggling once more. Leo, you have no backbone. A little bit of kindness from this iceberg and you melt completely. As I scolded myself internally, Damien let out a soft chuckle. The CEO's bathroom was larger than my entire studio apartment, complete with a massive jacuzzi. Rich people really know how to live. He placed me on the marble countertop and took out a small basin, starting to fill it with water. I knew what was coming, but strangely, the urge to flee was gone. Instead, I felt a flicker of anticipation. Maybe my human side was winning over my feline instincts. After all, a person needs to bathe before bed. Thinking this, I actually started to look forward to it, but just as the basin was filled, and I was waiting for Damien to put me in, he started taking off his own clothes. What's happening? Even though we're both men, peeking at someone bathing felt sleazy. I quickly lifted a paw to cover my eyes, but then I reconsidered. Wouldn't that be too human? Like for a cat, better put it down. Having rationalized my decision, I lowered my paw. Damien's perfect, tapered physique came into full view. Broad shoulders, a narrow waist, and sharply defined muscles radiated a powerful, magnetic charm. I fought to keep my gaze from drifting lower, but I failed. The sight of it made my face burn. Thank God I was a cat, or my blush would have been a dead giveaway. Damien walked towards me, naked. I could hear my heart pounding in my chest. What is he going to do? The next second, he lifted me into his arms. The rich, masculine scent of his body enveloped me. We're both guys, so why is his presence so overwhelming? Just as a wave of jealousy washed over me, he placed me in the basin. As the warm water soaked my fur, my cat instinct screamed at me to escape, but my human side prevailed. Under the soothing touch of his large hands, I slowly relaxed. He lathered me with shampoo, his gentle hands massaging every inch of my body. I'd never had a proper scrub down as a human, but I was getting one as a cat, and it felt incredible. His touch was so gentle, so comforting. There, you can soak for a bit. He left me in the basin, placing a small bath mat underneath me. After a final pat on my head, he stepped into the massive jacuzzi beside me, and so, we bathed together in silence. One man and one cat. It was strange, yet exhilarating. I never imagined I would be doing something like this with Damien Blackwood. I never knew this iceberg could be so gentle. What I didn't expect was that I would be sleeping with him that night. After he took me out and dried my fur, he carried me to his bedroom and placed me on his bed. Then, he lay down and pulled me into his arms. Is this CEO a secret fluff? Holic. No one in the entire Blackwood Corporation would ever believe that their feared, stoic boss slept with a cat in his arms. As for me, I felt a strange twist in my gut. This was the first time in my memory I had ever slept next to someone, and that someone was my boss. The feeling was odd. I thought I wouldn't be able to sleep, but nestled in Damien's warm embrace, I drifted off in minutes. The next morning, I shared breakfast with him. He said his goodbyes with another pat on my head before leaving for work. He didn't come home for lunch like yesterday, but as I was about to eat, the maid brought over a phone. Damien wanted to video call me. You've got to be kidding me. Before I could react, she placed the phone in front of me. Damien's handsome face filled the screen. Be a good boy and eat your lunch. Snowy, you hear me? Snowy, so that's my name. For some reason, whenever he said be a good boy, my face would inexplicably heat up. I meowed back at him, oblivious to the smile that had spread across his face. On the other end of the screen, I was living the dream life of every office worker. I was waited on hand and foot, fed gourmet meals by a Michelin-starred chef, and at night, I got to sleep next to a handsome man with an 8-pack. I might be a guy, but I can still appreciate male beauty, and Damien was a masterpiece of a man. I was seriously winning. Just as I was thinking that I could get used to this life, on the 7th day of being a cat, I woke up, as myself again. Yes, as human me. I'm back. You're finally awake. Who are you? I asked, my voice hoarse, looking at the woman in a nurse's uniform. The nurse didn't answer, just rushed out of the room. I looked around. I was definitely in a hospital. Soon, she returned with a doctor. After a thorough examination, the doctor announced, "Congratulations, you're cleared for discharge." Huh, are you sure? I just woke up. Are they kicking me out because they need the bed? My skepticism must have been obvious, because the doctor explained, "Your injuries were never severe. We couldn't determine the cause of your coma, but our observations over the past week show no brain damage. There's no medical reason to keep you here." As he spoke, I had a thought. If medicine can't explain it, maybe metaphysics can. My week long coma was because my soul was in a cat, but why did my soul end up in a cat? And more importantly, now that I'm back, what happened to the cat? Is Snowy still alive? The thought spurred me into action. I ignored the doctor and nurse and frantically searched for my phone, finding it in the bedside drawer. I scrolled to Damien's number, my thumb hovering over the call button, but then I hesitated. How could I just call him and ask if his cat was okay? What if he realized that the cat was me? That I, with a human soul, had lived with him, eaten with him, slept with him, seen him completely naked, and even secretly touched his abs with my paw. He'd probably kill me out of pure rage and humiliation. Half an hour later, I was discharged. Carrying my shoulder bag, I walked through the bustling hospital lobby. I saw patients surrounded by their families and told myself I wasn't envious. Not one bit. Right. Not envious at all. Not envious of what? A familiar voice cut through my thoughts. I looked up and realized I was about to walk straight into someone. I froze, speechless. After a moment, I managed to find my voice. "Mr. Blackwood, what was Damien doing here? Did he find out? Is he here for revenge?" The thought terrified me, and I instinctively took a step back. Damien didn't seem to notice. He just watched me quietly. The silence stretched. Finally, I had to speak first. "Mr. Blackwood, are you here for a check-up? Are you sick?" I wanted to ask, but that sounded like an insult. He countered with a question of his own. "Is the hospital only for seeing doctors?" Is he annoyed with me? Sensing the shift, I quickly tried to make my exit. "Well, I won't keep you then. I'll be heading home." As I turned to leave, he grabbed my wrist. "Mr. Blackwood, you're all right now?" "Yes," the doctor said, "I'm fine." He continued to study me. After another long pause, he finally spoke. "Good, just one word." For some reason, it left me feeling a little disappointed. I guess I'd gotten used to his gentle side when I was a cat. Now that he was back to being the cold, distant CEO, it felt wrong. "If there's nothing else, I'll be going, Mr. Blackwood." I rushed the words out, afraid I might betray some strange emotion if I stayed any longer. He grunted, releasing my hand. I couldn't sleep that night. It had only been a week, but my own apartment felt foreign. Lying on my king-sized bed, I found myself missing Damien's bed. Was it just because it's getting colder? Is that why I missed his warm embrace? The next day at the office, my colleagues treated me like a zoo animal. After I got home from the hospital, HR had called, telling me to come back to work whenever I felt ready. Since I had nothing else to do, I came in today. They were all curious about the accident, but I couldn't tell them much. I had passed out on impact. A bystander called an ambulance, and the police, unable to reach my family, found out I worked for Blackwood Corporation, which is how I ended up being treated. HR had handled everything. After satisfying their curiosity, I went to my desk. I had barely sat down when Damien arrived. "Mr. Blackwood is early today." "Yeah, it's only 9:10. He usually doesn't get in until 10. I perked my ears, listening to my colleagues whisper. "Does he look colder than usual to you?" "Isn't he always that cold?" "No. Didn't you notice the past few days? He seemed to be in a great mood. We were all guessing he'd gotten a girlfriend. So, by that logic, he just got dumped." "Probably." The head secretary arrived, and the office fell silent. She held a file, her stern gaze sweeping over everyone. "Leo," she said, her eyes landing on me, "take this file to Mr. Blackwood. He needs to sign it." Oh, okay. As Damien's assistant, running errands like this was part of my job, but the thought of seeing him now made me inexplicably nervous. Taking the file, I was so preoccupied with my anxiety that I missed the strange look the secretary gave me. I stood outside the CEO's office, took a deep breath, and pushed the door open. Mr. Blackwood. I kept my head down, not daring to look at him. I placed the file on his desk and mumbled. The head secretary said, "This needs your signature." I waited for the scratch of his pen, but there was only silence. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore and looked up. I was met with Damien's eyes, which held a faint, teasing smile. I was used to the icy, stoic CEO in this office. My heart tightened. Why is he looking at me like that? The question only made me more nervous. I swallowed hard and tried again. Mr. Blackwood, the file. Come here." He beckoned to me with a finger. I froze for a second. Then, like an idiot, I started walking towards him. By the time I realized what I was doing, I was already standing beside his chair. His large hand settled on my head, gently ruffling my hair. The familiar sensation made me instinctively close my eyes. If I were still a cat, I'd be purring right now. Wait a minute. If I were still a cat, it hit me. He couldn't have discovered something, could he? My eyes widened in panic. He met my gaze with a look of feigned confusion. What's wrong? My lips moved, but no words came out. I wanted to ask if he knew, but that would be a confession. In the end, I just shook my head. He didn't press, just continued to stroke my hair. I felt incredibly awkward. After nearly 5 minutes of this, I finally worked up the courage to speak. Mr. Blackwood, you're not supposed to just touch a guy's head. Oh, really? He asked casually, his hand not stopping. It wasn't like a few head pats would kill me, but it felt so weird. A strange, unfamiliar feeling was blooming in my chest, and the lack of control terrified me. I tried to step back, but he grabbed my arm. With a single, firm pull, I lost my balance and fell forward, right into his lap. "Careful now," he said, his voice laced with amusement. His audacity stunned me. I was about to push myself up and argue, but his arms wrapped around my waist, holding me tight. What is he doing? My mind went blank, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Mr. Blackwood, could you please let me go?" "No." He refused without a second thought, his grip tightening. "Mr. Blackwood, this is inappropriate between two men," I forced myself to say. My words seemed to amuse him, and he chuckled. Just when I thought he'd never let go, he did. He released his arms. I was so dazed I didn't move until he ruffled my hair again. I scrambled up and retreated to the other side of his desk. This version of Damien was too strange. I had to keep my distance. I watched him warily as he picked up his pen and signed the document. The second he was done, I snatched the file and bolted from the office as if my life depended on it. A colleague saw me. "What's the rush? See a ghost in there?" I thought to myself. Damien is scarier than any ghost. I spent the rest of the day on edge, terrified he would summon me back to his office for more strange behavior, but he didn't. I made it to the end of the day unscathed. For the next few days, Damien seemed to return to normal. When I brought him documents, he acted professionally. The cold, distant CEO was back, treating me like any other subordinate. I should have been relieved, but for some reason, a fleeting sense of disappointment would occasionally flicker through me. It must be my imagination. Old Mr. Chen from the Chen Corporation has invited Mr. Blackwood to lunch, and he has accepted. You'll accompany him. The head secretary delivered the order. I was one of Damien's assistants, but usually, I handled office tasks. Accompanying him to a client meeting was a first. I wanted to ask why, but she was already gone, leaving me staring at her retreating back. At 11:30, just as I was about to ask Damien when we were leaving, he appeared in front of my desk. I tensed up. Is he going to start being weird again? But he just glanced at me and said coolly, "Let's go." Then he turned and walked away. I shook off my thoughts and hurried after him. In the car, I sat beside him in the back seat. Even with the driver there, it felt like we were in our own little world. My anxiety was a constant hum, my palms sweating. I stole a glance at him. He was focused on a file, not sparing me a single look. I really had been overthinking things. The lunch was at the Grand Dynasty Hotel. As we arrived, a beautiful woman in a chic, tailored dress came out to greet us. She introduced herself as Mr. Chen's granddaughter. She was poised and professional, but the adoration in her eyes when she looked at Damien was unmistakable. She walked to his side, and I, on his other side, quietly slowed my pace, falling behind to give them space. I thought I was being considerate, but after a few steps, Damien stopped and looked back at me. Why are you walking so slowly? All eyes were on me. Feeling awkward, I quickly caught up to him. In the private room, old Mr. Chen was already waiting. Damien greeted him with a cool, detached nod. Mr. Chen was a senior figure, so Damien's attitude was a bit disrespectful, but the old man didn't seem to mind, warmly inviting him to sit. After Damien sat down, I was about to stand behind his chair, but he pulled me down into the seat next to him. The beautiful granddaughter, who had clearly intended to sit there, looked crestfallen. I glanced at her, then at Damien, and it all clicked. He was using me as a shield. Eat up. Damien placed 2 large, shelled prawns on my plate. Across the table, the woman's glare could have cut glass. These prawns were going to give me indigestion. Even if you're putting on a show, you could be a little more subtle. What if she gets angry and has me assassinated? Not to your liking, Damien asked when he saw I hadn't moved. Before I could answer, he added, I remember you love prawns. You remember. Since when are we that close, Mr. Blackwood? You treat your assistants so well, the woman said, her voice tight. Damien ignored her, his eyes fixed on me as he smiled faintly. He deserves it. Hey, what do you mean by that? Don't you know how easily that can be misinterpreted? And it was, not just the granddaughter, but old Mr. Chen's face was now turning dark. Damien, Mr. Chen said, pulling rank as an elder, does your family know about this? Uncle Chen, you jest. Of course, my family knows everything about my life. Mr. Chen's face grew even darker. He looked like he wanted to say more but bit his tongue. Eat, Damien murmured, patting my head again, his voice sinking back into that gentle tone. Why did I say sinking back? Because that gentleness was something he only ever showed the cat version of me. I was starting to seriously wonder if he really had figured everything out. How else could he be acting so strange again? As my mind reeled with suspicion, Damien dropped a bombshell. He picked up a prawn from my plate with his fork and held it to my lips. For a moment, I saw a flashback. Damien feeding me when I was a cat. As if possessed, I opened my mouth. By the time I snapped out of it, the prawn was gone, and Mr. Chen and his granddaughter, fuming, had gotten up and left the room. They just left. Will that be a problem? It seemed like they hadn't said a single word about business. Damien just smiled and ruffled my hair. Don't worry, Blackwood and Chen have no business dealings. I only agreed to this lunch out of some small respect for the friendship my grandfather once had with their family. Once had. Small respect. The way he phrased it was loaded with meaning, but he seemed genuinely unconcerned. Stop overthinking. Keep eating. Damien picked up another prawn to feed me. This time, my brain was working. There was no way I was letting him do that again. I can eat by myself. You should eat too, Mr. Blackwood. You haven't had a bite. I am hungry, he said, staring at me thoughtfully. Then eat, I said, confused. Then it hit me. Was he waiting for me to peel a shrimp for him? Seeing as he had just done it for me, it was only fair. So, I picked one up and expertly shelled it. But when I placed it on his plate, he still didn't move. Why aren't you eating, Mr. Blackwood? Don't you like shrimp? How did you know I like shrimp? Of course I saw you eat them when I was a cat. I almost blurted it out. He was still watching me, waiting for an answer. I started to panic. Finally, I looked at the shrimp, picked it up with my fork, and stuffed it into his mouth. If your mouth is full, you can't ask awkward questions, right? It seemed like a good idea at the time, but I had no plan for what came next. Watching his surprised expression as he slowly chewed, I had the sudden urge to run. You're good at shelling shrimp, he said after a moment. Another one, huh? His words shattered my impulse to flee. I meekly shelled another shrimp for him and fed it to him. Maybe he was pleased with my performance, because he then shelled a few for me and fed them to me as well. The rest of the lunch passed in a strange, silent ritual of us feeding each other. Can you really rent a boyfriend? Honey, you can rent a girlfriend too. Let's go check it out after work tonight. Okay, deal. The 2 female colleagues next to me were gossiping. Normally, I'd be all ears, but today, my mind was elsewhere. It all started after that lunch with the Chens. Damien had become weird again. He'd frequently call me into his office for trivial tasks, and while he gave the orders, he'd always stroke my head. Sometimes, he'd even pull me into his lap to do it. Once, I couldn't take it anymore and asked, "Don't you think this is strange?" He just retorted, "What's strange about it?" I was left speechless, letting him have his way with me. That evening, I collapsed onto my sofa, too exhausted to even think about dinner. I closed my eyes, and my phone rang. I answered without looking. Hello, sleeping. It was Damien. I shot up, instantly regretting my decision. If I'd known it was him, I would have pretended to be asleep, but it was too late to hang up now. Mr. Blackwood, is there something I can help you with? Yes, I need you to come to my house. I need your help with something. Huh, I paused. What is it? I was just a junior assistant. What could the big boss possibly need my help with at his home? You'll know when you get here, he said curtly and hung up. I stared at the phone, my mind in turmoil. Why did Damien love making my life so difficult? After silently cursing him out, I still ended up taking a taxi to his mansion. As I got out of the car, I saw him standing by the main gate. I froze. Was he waiting for me? No way. But he walked over and naturally took my hand. You sounded sleepy on the phone. Are you that tired? It's all right. Just got home from work and thought I'd rest a bit. So you haven't eaten? He asked, his brow furrowing in disapproval. I'm just not hungry. He didn't say anything, but as soon as we were inside, he instructed the staff to prepare dinner. I was about to say he didn't have to, but he pulled me onto the sofa and wrapped me in a tight hug. The embrace swallowed my protests. While in his arms, I couldn't help but glance towards the cat bed. A small, furry head peeked out. The knot of anxiety in my chest finally loosened. Snowy is okay. The chef was fast. A table full of delicious food was ready in no time. Damien led me to the table and pulled out a chair for me, before sitting down beside me. Even though I had lived here for a week, this was the first time I was sitting at this dining table as a human. During the meal, Damien started feeding me again. Does he have some kind of feeding fetish? He did it when I was a cat, and now he's doing it when I'm a human. I didn't dislike it, but a nagging feeling told me it was wrong, making me feel conflicted. Mr. Blackwood, what did you need my help with? Dinner was over, and he still hadn't mentioned it. I finally had to ask. Let's go for a walk to digest. He took my hand again. I hesitated, but he led me out to the villa's small garden. After a few laps, we went back inside. Now he'll tell me, right? Instead, he handed me a set of clothes and told me to go take a shower. Why aren't you going in? Do you want me to join you? His words almost made my soul leave my body. I shook my head frantically, bolted into the bathroom, and slammed the door shut. The steam in the bathroom made my head swim. I was still dizzy when I walked out. Damien was walking towards me, and I stumbled right into his chest. He didn't hesitate, scooping me up into a bridal carry and placing me on his bed. If you're tired, just sleep. He then got into bed beside me and pulled me into his arms. I hope we both get a good night's sleep tonight. In a daze, I heard him whisper this in my ear. Then, whether from sleepiness or something else, I fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. The morning sun filtered through the curtains. I opened my eyes, saw the broad chest in front of me, nuzzled against it, and closed my eyes to go back to sleep. Wait, no. My eyes flew open. I looked at my hands, my feet. I'm not a cat anymore. Why am I still sleeping with Damien? And what is his deal? Last night, I might have believed he genuinely needed my help, but after a whole night, how could I not understand? He didn't need anything. He just wanted an excuse to hold me. Thinking back on all his actions lately, a bold idea bloomed in my mind. Could Damien Blackwood be in love with me? But I'm straight. I don't like men. The thought terrified me. I scrambled out of bed, not even bothering to change, and fled his house in his pajamas. I didn't know that the moment I left the room, Damien opened his eyes, a faint smile playing on his lips. I called in sick. Lying in my bed, my mind was a chaotic blank. What am I going to do? If he really likes me, how can I face him? I'm not into guys. I'm 100% straight. If I can make him understand that, he should give up, right? But how? How do I show him our orientations are different? A phone call interrupted my thoughts. I was worried it was Damien, but it was just a colleague with a work question. After answering, I hung up, and in that moment, I had an idea. Yes, that method should solve the problem. Mr. Blackwood, are you free tonight? I asked, my heart pounding. I am. He sounded cheerful on the other end, his two simple words filled with pleasure. I'd like to treat you to dinner tonight. Would you come? Send me the address. He agreed so readily it made me even more nervous, but I forced myself to calm down, hung up, and sent him the location. Hey, relax, boyfriend. The girl beside me giggled. We've rehearsed this for 2 days. It'll be fine. She reached out to touch my face, and I recoiled. Words are fine, but no touching, I warned. For some reason, her reaching for me filled me with a strong sense of revulsion. Why didn't I ever feel this way when Damien touched my face? She sized me up. Are you really straight? Her question made my hackles rise. Of course I am. Look, you took the money, just do your job and stay out of my business. The thought of how much I paid her still made my heart ache. I had gone to great lengths to prove my straightness to Damien. The Gilded Lily was where I had arranged to meet him. When I arrived with my girlfriend, Chloe, Damien was already there. His handsome face lit up when he saw me, but the smile faded when his eyes landed on Chloe. Mr. Blackwood, this is my girlfriend, Chloe. We wanted to treat you to dinner tonight, to thank you for taking care of me all this time. You're saying she is your girlfriend? Damien cut me off, his face terrifyingly dark. His expression scared me so much I couldn't speak. It seems I've given you too much freedom, he said, his voice dangerously low. You've started playing with fire. He suddenly grabbed my wrist and dragged me out of the restaurant. Mr. Blackwood, what are you doing? He ignored me, pulling me along. I kept asking, but he didn't say another word until we were back at his mansion. He didn't let go, pulling me through the house until we reached a small, dark room. He opened the door and pulled me inside, leaving the lights off. In the darkness, I felt him grab something. Before I could see what it was, something cold snapped around my neck. A soft click echoed in the silence. It sounded like a lock. The lights flicked on. I looked down and saw a cat collar around my neck. What is this? Get this thing off me. I clawed at it, but the custom-made collar was locked. Brute force was useless. Damien pulled my hands away and brought one to his lips, placing a soft kiss on my knuckles. He leaned in, his voice a husky whisper in my ear. Naughty kittens must be punished. A shiver ran down my spine. My mind went blank with shock. How did you? Damien seemed done with the games. I knew from the first day you possessed Snowy's body, he said simply, because I could hear all of your thoughts. What? My eyes were wide with disbelief. How could something so bizarre be real? He patted my head soothingly. You saw every part of me when you were a cat. Don't you think you should take some responsibility for that? Huh? So that's why he'd been acting that way ever since I came back. But I was just a cat then. You touched me, you licked me, and you slept with me. Isn't that enough? When did I lick you? I bristled. October 13th. In the evening. You thought I was asleep, so you secretly licked my abs. Stop. The social death was absolute. I couldn't believe he knew about that. Alright, calm down, he chuckled. I won't tell anyone, but you broke my heart. You have to make it up to me. Make it up to you. How? Before I could process it, he swept me into his arms. By the time I came to my senses, I was on his bed, and he was pinning me down, leaving me no room to escape. I thought we'd broken through that barrier, he murmured, his voice low and intense. I thought you would come back to me, but instead, you little thing, you go and find a girlfriend just to spite me. It seems I've been too good to you. Hearing that, I finally understood. That night he called me to his house. He was trying to break the ice, but I really don't like men, I said weakly. Impossible, he said it with such conviction. Then he leaned down and claimed my lips. When the kiss ended, I was left breathless. Do you hate it? He asked. I meekly shook my head. He smiled, caressing my cheek. And you still say you're straight. Look at you. You're as bent as a rainbow. I wanted to argue, but he silenced me again, this time with his body. When I could finally think again, I felt like I'd been run over by a truck. Damien held me in his arms, a smug grin on his face. So, was it good, little straight boy? I buried my face in his chest, consumed by shame. Straight? Yeah, I guess we can forget I ever said that.